Hey!
What's up, guys?
Well, you had us panicking there. How come you always look really good in your shirt, you bastard?
Has straps to fill it up.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
No. Oh, look at that background. The topic in the background, huh?
Yeah. Paul Linn effect. Let's take it all right oak.
Paul Linn effect.
Yeah, I like how you lads have now got the pound for pound logo, even though I'm getting a mirror effect. I hope that's not the case for everyone else.
Is that backwards?
Yeah.
Is that backwards?
It is.
Yeah.
Mine is too, huh?
I'm inverting my logo right now.
I don't know how to do it.
You can see the perfection on the fixed screw when you both back to front.
This one is inverted. I inverted that because on my screen that doesn't look inverted.
No, on my screen it does.
So how do you invert it?
Yours is fine, Paul.
It is?
Yeah, yours is perfect, mate. Yours says leave it
cool. I'm going to leave it go there.
I was not going to say anything, but I'm not that kind of guy.
Oh, that fits Ryan really well.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand pulleys. He can't invert later.
As you can see, for those people out there who are questioning the level of professionalism on the fix, you can see that it is in fact total shite. Right, now let's have a look. Rollie Royce, yours now is wrong.
It's wrong?
Yeah, you need to put it the other way around, so.
For me, it's right.
You really
Ryan, that one's better anyway. I like that one better.
A background on there now.
You like the backwards one?
Is it
No,
good?
I like the one you got up right now, Ryan.
That's perfect.
That's
You can't see pound for pound. All you can see is Ryan Scott and actually very, very funny Jordan Davis, where he's trying to meme mug, even though he still can't help looking like a bush baby.
Is that the right way? Because it's backwards for me.
It looks good.
That's
the same way mine is, man.
The pound for pound one you had up earlier was great. It had the pound for pound logo positioned perfectly. It was just that, voice of arm wrestling now, that's awesome. Lethal Arms, awesome. This is good stuff, lads. I'll tell you what, we've upped a level.
Yeah. Everyone knows how to use a computer now.
Apart from me, I'm going with the natural line. But ladies and gentlemen, I will catch up technically in the next couple of weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, as you look at your screen in front of you, you will see that the level of professionalism here on the fix has increased relatively dramatically. As my co-hosts will show you what they're working with, I'm not going to do that because I'm not working with a great deal unless we're talking below the belt, motherfuckers. Are they? But what you will see is that they've all got their individual branding in place, pound for pound, Voice of Arm Wrestling, and Lethal Arms Apparel, respectively. Now, what you won't know is that just before we came on air, some big sexy guy, moi, had to put it right for these guys, because for any budding YouTube creators out there, when you put your background on and you press invert that looks right to you, it is in fact back to front. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and this is going to impress Rollie Royce. Check this out, Techie. Episode 49.
I was just checking.
Episode 49. I've verified that with the technical director. It's episode 49 of The Fix. That means, guys, we're only one show away from the half-century show. We've got to do something special for that. Maybe we sacrifice Ryan.
As long as I don't do it already beforehand, you know.
And imagine all it's over and everyone can arm wrestle.
Well, he's doing a good job, and we're going to start right there, mother fluffers. We're going to start right there because, as you know, we always like to have a little bit of fun with Ryan, who tends to. This is how it goes down, right? We film the fix, right? We get together, we spend an evening filming the fix, we put a couple of things together, and then we've got a week break, at least, maybe 2 weeks, before we do the next show. Now that's way too much time for Ryan to just exist without pissing off the entire world. In that period of time, you know that he's definitely going to do it, right? So this time, Ryan has got on there and just hammered Levan Saganashvili's lift. But I'm going to have to say, Ryan, I actually agree with you, mate.
There we go.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you agree with Ryan.
In terms of the point you're actually making about the weight lifted, I mean, why am I doing this? Technical director, I think this is your area of specialty, innit? You got anything to say on this, Rollie?
About what?
About what? You're not listening again. Ignore the cat. He's probably got 5 birds. He's like Krasimir Kostadinov. He's got a woman just out of shot. You know, all about the pussy with Ray. Now, Ray, we're talking about the recent comment that he's put out on the pulleys and the weight lifted on the pulleys. Now, we're not going to dwell on this because it's already going to get Ryan potentially killed. So, we're not going to do it. But,
so, I watched the video and I was like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, yo, those weights are really, really impressive. And I'm like, but are they dividing it correctly? Because, you know, they're adding weight and they don't count, like it's different. And you don't know the friction, everything else. This way you need crane scale. You know, you need crane scale with peak force or something like that.
Just a second. I have some experience on friction. I'm just going to talk about
We all have.
Seriously, I've been locked up for months and my missus don't love me. So if you want to know about friction, I know about it. It's really bad. Okay, carry on.
So I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do a video where I'll explain the weights were still impressive, like out of this world. For like, I haven't seen for side pressure and fingers anything bigger, and back pressure was huge lift as well. And okay, so I'm going to do the video and wake up and my man Ryan has already done it and he has all the hate. And I'm like, yes, I didn't get any hate.
Yeah, you were lining yourself up to have the world hate you. Yeah. Ryan just did it.
I would say the weight should be like 15% lower or something like that. And that would be accurate, you know. But again, they need to use crane scale or something like that. But yeah. And then we would see it's still nowhere near that I have seen anyone do. Like, you know, for essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, you know, I haven't actually even watched the video, so I'm not really going to get into it because I genuinely haven't. I've seen clips that have come up, you know, where people have seen, oh, did you see this? And they've done their own analysis of it, but I haven't actually watched the full piece at all. However, from the numbers that are put up there, and let's be honest, without seeing the video, did we not know that Levan's an absolute monster? I mean, in terms of physical strength, he's the man, unquestionably. And with the greatest of respect, and, you know, Michael is not that guy. Michael's a strong dude, he's a great arm wrestler, but in terms of physical strength, I don't think that's his moniker. It's never going to be, really. He's not going to win a strength match against Levan Saganashvili. He may win an arm wrestling match based on pure awkward.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So just to corroborate Ryan, because I don't always agree with him, the reason why I know that Ryan's right is because I did the exact same thing in my video, and I just explained it before we got online. Is when I was doing it, I was talking my way through it, and I had the same pulley set up, and it's labeled correctly, and I was adding weight and adding that number. Like if I added a 5-pound dumbbell to it, I was adding 5 pounds to the total for my first 3 or 4 attempts through there before I realized that that I needed to have that when I put the crane scale on it. So they're doing the same thing, and it's an honest mistake. Like, they're not putting those numbers up out there. You know what I mean? And what's so crazy is seeing 88 kilos. I somehow, like, I didn't even respond like, that can't be right. I was just like, oh, that's Levan. He probably did it. You know what I mean? The irony, I think I thought that was most funny, Ryan, was your comment, like, in the group text, like, hey, here's the video. I'm not trolling. I just want people to understand. And I had to just laugh because you look at the title. And then Ryan says, I'm not trolling. I just like to throw rocks at hornets' nests.
Yep.
And that's how it was received. But no, Ryan's right.
That's the honest thing. Like, I was 100% not trolling. I just, same thing as you guys, same thing as you, Ray. I watched the video, I sat down, and I saw the number 88, and I actually expected, okay, Levan's at 88, in this. But then I saw that, and I was like, and it's an honest mistake, as you said. They had previously crane scale tested it up to the 55 kilos, which was accurate as per the labeling. But yeah, same mistake as yourself, Paul. It's easy to do, to throw on the extra weight, and no one caught that. And it's definitely not a troll. Definitely not trying to say anything about Levan not being Levan. But for me, it was important, like, the arm wrestling world. It was just I was trying to do it as a service to the arm wrestling world, to say, hey guys, just so you're aware, because it's such a common mistake that people don't understand. I mean, we see it in the arm wrestling training groups all the time. People saying, hang on, but I did 150 pounds. And being confused. Right. So it's good that we're all on the same page.
That's what's happening too. A lot of people putting their lifts in with this thing Uncle John's doing. Some people are posting, and they genuinely don't get it. You know what I mean? And that's why you need a crane scale. Because, like Neil said, like, the friction piece is important too, depending on how your pulley system is. And the reality of it, if Levan had done that lift, like in your garage, Ryan, in Brisbane, it would have been 88 kilograms. Because when you're at the center of humanity, you're invariably going to do more.
More everything.
I don't think you could have put that any better, John. If put on Saganashvili with his natural genetics and obviously the effort he's prepared to put into this thing, had lived within, 7-8 miles of Brisbane. Probably do like
I want to clarify one thing, just in case anyone's still got this up in the air. When I say Lachlan Adair has lifted 75 and Levan lifted 72.5 the other day, please, arm wrestling world, know that I'm not saying Levan is going to lose to Lachlan in an arm wrestle. There is so much more to an arm wrestle.
Just in a wind sprint.
Fast us.
I'll bet on Lachlan in that one for sure.
There's clearly so much more. I'd actually like to see that. If I ever get Levan and Lachlan in the same room, we're having a series of competitive events, and beach sprint is one of them, for sure.
Oh, it's got to be. There's no doubt about it, because, Lachlan Adair, fast as fuck.
Yeah. But anyway, before we move on, I am always going to back up Lachlan, that in this lift, Lachlan is phenomenal. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
On behalf of the rest of the people, I think I can speak for the technical director and for Paul. I'll respond to that. We knew. Fair enough. Now then, off what you've seen, lads. Anybody change their opinions on the outcome of the actual arm wrestling match? Has it really swayed anybody, or has anybody thought, okay, now I don't think what I thought before?
Yeah, me.
Go.
I was in the Michael camp prior to this, and the reason I was in the Michael camp was my memories of what Kritikali Ongarbayev did to Levan. He seemed to be able to just crack slightly the wrist of Levan when they had their top 8 match in the preliminaries. And I remember at the time thinking, if that was Michael Todd just cracking that wrist, I think that he would have the staying power to outlast Levan. But that has changed since seeing Levan in the same room as Michael, seeing Levan, the physical presence of him in relation to Michael. I now tend to think that Levan's center table strength is going to be sufficient that Michael, I don't think that Levan's going to panic. I don't think that he's going to sense a need to attack. I think that he can stay dead center and just have enough fundamental strength, back pressure, and cupping power that Michael will gas trying to crack the wrist, and then it will be a fairly simple finish for Levan. I mean, if Michael can convince Levan to attack, there's a chance that that Michael may get the wrist. But for me, the pendulum has swung, and I'm now, if I had to bet, I would bet on Levan now.
It's quite interesting for me because I haven't actually seen a lot of the stuff yet. As I say, just snippets. So without sort of seeing it, I'm probably not qualified to really give an opinion on that. But what I would say is this. The bands thing I saw. Okay. I haven't actually changed my opinion, really, about the match at all from anything I've heard or seen. Because you can say, for what you're saying there is you don't think that Michael could win the centre of the table, the upper third. I actually agree with that entirely. I don't see a way really that Michael can necessarily win that. I think he might be able to bust out if he can bust, depending on the rule system and depending on what they're wrestling under. He might be able to bust out and get a strap. But I think it's a little bit of a red herring for me. Because is the match from Michael's perspective, or was the match ever going to happen in the top third? I see it happening in the bottom third on Levan's side. That's where I see it. It's either Levan just is too strong, his hand and wrist remain uncompromised, and he just whips him, or in the bottom third, he makes technical error, Michael manages to get some degree of compromise on his hands and wrists, and if he can do that, the awkward factor kicks in, and we're into that long, drawn out. Yeah.
I actually think that Levan's best. I think Levan's best bet is to stay in the middle third and not. Yeah,
but he can't. He's got to pin him at some point, right?
Yeah, no, but
I can't win it by staying in the middle.
He can.
No, he
hear me out. I think if he, he can't, but he'd get what he needs. I think if he stays middle third, Michael can't stress his hand and wrist as much as if he's in the attacking third. If he's in the attacking third, there's a chance his wrist gasses before Michael's coronation.
That's what I'm getting at, though, mate. He's got to go into that bottom third at some stage.
If they stay in the center, like Michael can, like if Michael comes closer, he's gonna pin him. So Michael gonna stay in King's move already. So there's no way. And if they stay in the center and like. If Levan just works for that regrip as high as he can, that's good. But if he stays there and tries to hold him, like Michael isn't draining in his King's move, like you are because you're holding on to it. So, Devon just posted a video last night, and about 10 minutes, and he said like the best thing you should look at is Levan versus Trubin. And Trubin had a superior hand. He was just climbing and climbing, and I completely believe to him. Like fundamentally speaking, Levan, I see him much better than Tsiplenko. Tsiplenko didn't have the back pressure that Levan has. This is why Tsiplenko sometimes opened himself up, and Levan has that back pressure, that fingers, that wrist, and that side pressure.
I think Levan just moves better, doesn't he, Ray?
Yeah.
He just moves better.
Yeah. He doesn't move like he's 160, 70 kilos.
No, he's fluid. No.
Like you can find guys that, like you can train him on those moves and they could lift same weight, but they are not arm wrestlers. That's the big difference. You can find the same guy moving the same weights. He's not the arm wrestler. He will lose 100 out of 100 times to Levan because he's an arm wrestler.
It's kind of like, like there's a lot of very big, powerful men in rugby. But Jonah Lomu was different. Because Jonah Lomu had whatever the hell it was, 11 seconds, something stupid sprint. So he was a big, unbelievably strong man that also moved really well.
Like clockwork.
Yeah.
Not quite that fast. But pretty quick. Sorry, go, Paul.
For me, and I've been kind of saying that I want to see Michael Todd win because he's the underdog in this. After looking at all the lifts, the ones that stuck out to me are along the line of what Ray is saying. His eccentric handle to me was the most impressive. So that was the one that I wasn't sure about because, seeing Levan in training, you see his fingers and his wrist a little bit sometimes get compromised, and even in matches, where he kind of loses a flat wrist or doesn't gain a full cup. Then to watch him do the numbers he did on the eccentric handle makes me think that he has potentially enough to really stay high compared with that back pressure. He has the ability to climb and cup.
Just so you know, Paul, the calculated numbers, the correct numbers was he went to 80 kilos, not 101. So right. when you adjust for the pulling, he went to 80 kilos. Which
wait a minute, he did 80 kilos
on the Mazarenko finger handle.
Yeah, and I regardless of where that sits in the world or whatever else,
that's really
he didn't fail either. I'm pretty sure he was half of his reps he was cupping them down and he was playing with.
Yeah.
So to me that really stuck out, and I know what I can and can't do on that handle because I have it. So pairing that up with back pressure, he most certainly can win the match. The thing that we didn't get to see tested, and that we kind of did. Was what kind of lactic acid threshold does he have, and his staying power. And I thought, kind of looking at the bench press rep out, which he did phenomenal reps, full range of motion. He did seem to show, for somebody as strong as he is, his 1 rep max, his endurance didn't seem to back that up. So I'm still of the belief that regardless of all these lifts being different, if Michael Todd can compromise his wrist and get him to stick at the pin line, the unknown variable really is, can Levan sustain, or will his wrist eventually completely give up?
So it's exactly that, Paul. Because if Michael can stop the match and Levan has not chosen to stop, you know what I mean? He's not trying to be strategic, and he's trying to, because two things, going back to what Ray said, the climbing for height thing. Myself and Devon were discussing that the other day. We had a catch up the other day on Devon's channel, and we both absolute agreement on that one. If you can get the height early, if you can, you start to take away a great deal of that. The other thing is that what you've just said about the handle where his hand's being tested. Number one, 80 kilos is mega. Mm-hmm. Number two, it kind of makes sense as well because for him, one of the reasons I think he's going to be so good at things like that is because his hand is frigging huge. He's got such a massive hand. I mean, it's not just the hand, his wrist is powerful. That forearm, whatever the hell that is, he's got to have an 18-inch forearm or something. His forearm's huge. So he's obviously got an enormous amount of power there, but the size of the hand is going to be interesting because how far will that come around Michael? And then, therefore, where is Michael's linear application of the strength? Where is he able to get the stop? Does that compromise Levan's hand and wrist less as a result of that? I don't know. But I think, as Paul said, ultimately, if the match stops and Levan hasn't sort of just made it stop to try and climb for height, then that therefore means he doesn't like something he feels. He feels like he's getting compromised as he moves to the pin. And if that happens, I pray that happens, not because I necessarily want Mike to win or Levan to win. Just because if that happens, oh God, it's on. And number one, we're going to get a mega match then. And number two, we'll actually get to see some of Levan's skills. And I believe that he is underrated as an arm wrestler. I think he can really pull. If you watch old footage of him when he was coming up through the classes, he'd get into a hook, he'd battle away. He's a good, well-rounded arm wrestler. That would be really interesting to see. But give us a score prediction. Come on, Ryan.
Me.
On the block, son.
6 rounds or 5?
I know.
Surely, if it happens, it's going to happen in PAL because will PAL let Levan pull if he doesn't? Like I said, I was someone in the Michael camp, but for me, it wasn't seeing Levan with bands or anything like that changed it. It was just seeing literally Levan stand next to Michael. That was what changed it for me. It was just the elbow to fingertip was
a little bigger than I expected it to be. And so when I saw them grip up, Michael was low on the hand of Levan, and that presented to me a worrying sign. Huge. Yeah. If Michael had looked a little taller in that scenario, I would have stayed with Michael, regardless of what training has, because that training didn't really mean anything. But I'm changing. I'm sticking with Levan, and under that scenario, I'm going 6-0 Levan.
Ooh.
and Michael just being too fast, just a little bit too far short in rounds 1, 2, 3, and then Michael actually becoming more fatigued than Levan as it goes on, and it getting worse for him as it goes on, which will be, I think, a really rare thing. And I think that because I think Levan is big enough, tall enough, and has enough hand control that you guys talked about rise and climb. I actually think that Levan in the strap might not even need to rise and climb, just a touch of supination and wrist flexion, and not even allow Michael to get to his pointing to the defensive side position. I think he can keep Michael square to the table, and if he keeps him square to the table, I feel like Michael will fatigue in a way that Michael's not used to fatiguing. And then when the subsequent drive comes, Michael's going to be underneath the wrist flexion of Levan. And in that scenario, I don't think Michael comes back.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think if you go in with Levan, you've kind of got to go 6-0.
Yeah.
Because if Mike stops him once, it's on.
Right.
You know, unless, of course, it's in the last 2 rounds and Levan, because Levan's a lovely dude, isn't he? So if Levan sort of backs off a couple and or something like that, I'm talking about if they go for it.
You made a promise.
I know. Yeah, Levan has made the promise that he will. He wants 6-0s forever. He doesn't want anything else other than 6-0.
I love it.
That's another great point by Ryan.
I love it.
A lot. Yeah. How many good points is that you've made this week, mate?
Oh, man, there's more to come. Don't worry.
Right, here we go. Rollie Rice.
I was going with Levan before, so I think the only thing that can hit him out would be, again, like I agreeing with Ryan, because Michael is used to when his arm is on that 2/3 of a losing position, you know, and not a lot of guys are used to being stopped, you know, right before winning. So getting in that position where Michael is comfortable and Levan is not comfortable would not be good for him. But I think, like, Levan has so many advantages over Michael. Like all the fundamentals, like they tested comparison, you know, it's the numbers that, like, Devon was saying he was under Siplenko. He's like maybe 30%, something like that. So it's kind of similar to that. So advantages on every fundamentals, advantage on a hand. Like the hand is thicker, bigger. So if he goes for that top roll, it's easier for him to get there. And Michael has the king's move, that unexpected element. Like I said, like Michael is not monster because he's so strong. No. Michael is monster because he's so hard to kill. Yeah. So, and if Michael plays right and he knows how to do it, he has a chance. But I believe, depending on the rule set, on everything else, I like in WL, I would favor a little bit on the center and say 3-2, Levan wins, or something like that. But 6-0 would be the thing that I would go right now. Just looking how imposing he is. And I'm going to Dubai. In 2 weeks, I'm going to Dubai. I'm gonna, if COVID doesn't F anything up, I'm gonna be there. And like, I want to talk with everyone. I want to talk with Michael. I don't think his training method is the best thing he's doing for him. Like, we had this conversation before we started, and I said, like, you know, it was like someone saying, like, man, you have these long matches, you should train endurance. And he's like, yeah, I should train endurance. Yeah, you should train some endurance, be able to get in these matches. But you need to get stronger at fundamentals. If he has, like, if he adds 10% to back pressure, 10% to his hand or something, you know, or some, he's better. He's gonna end up in better positions. Right now, he's like, when he first went to Dubai, you can watch the first videos. Like some guys that are not in my opinion, that good. They were opening up his hand. That doesn't look good. If he can secure the hand, be stronger there, that's a bigger advantage than just relying on one thing. And that's what I don't like about his training, is he's too much focusing on that one thing. But if he had more pronation, more hand, he would always get a little bit better position with his hand. He wouldn't even have to dry out, weight there. He would be much better arm wrestler. And I think, comparison to Levan, the weights that he lifted, he needs to get stronger, in my opinion. And you will not get stronger by doing circles all the time. You need to have arm wrestling type of training. That's just my opinion. And I know maybe I will anger someone by saying this, but there's no, facts don't lie. Look at it. Look at the matches. Michael loses his hand, and he gets the hand back by staying in King's move. It's not because of doing 50 reps here. No, he's just draining them out where he can, and he gets back in position. If he's stronger there, he wouldn't have to wait there. So I say there's a flaw in his training, in my opinion. And I hope we will be there. We will talk about it. And if he has different perspective, I would love to hear it. But looking at it, he needs to get stronger. He will always have these matches. He always had the same matches. Like Travis said, when we were in our zone, we were talking something, and he said, Michael will have the same match with John Brzenk and John Brzenk Sr. It's gonna end up the same way. Get stronger. You still always will have this, but getting stronger. I'm sorry, I'm ranting, but I'm looking at the lifts.
Good.
And Michael is ranked number 2 in the world, and I'm like, get stronger, man. Be stronger. Show the better side of arm wrestling. Don't let anyone take your hand. I had this, when we were doing the shows back, 5-6 weeks ago, I said, you need to get really strong arm wrestler there, and they wouldn't move him over the center. And that's what, boom, stonewalling. And he just stands there. Levan, no one can move there. You can go down the list. You can go with Kochak. You can go with Prudnik. They wouldn't move them out of the center because the fundamentals are so strong. If Michael would improve his fundamentals, his whole game would evolve. Then I would give him more chance. If Michael would have lifted in somewhat good position where his muscles, not the lock, is moving the weight, I would say, I could lean a little bit forward. But the difference was too big for me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm out.
Hey, that's kind of why you're here. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you see, mate, in terms of Ray just said? Do you agree with all that?
I agree with a lot of what both of the guys said, but let me preface my opinion. I do see Michael as the underdog. I see that all is very similar to the Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier fight that just happened on Saturday. I invariably will look for opportunities to bet on and support the underdog. So my opinion on this match, it's just as if I'm betting on a fighter that I want to win. I'm going to convince myself of about 7 different variables that they have in their favor. So think of my opinion and prediction on that, with that in the back of your head. So I see Michael as about a 3-1 underdog, possibly more, based off all these variables that have been spoken about. But I come back to the idea of the amount of muscle mass that Levan carries. The more muscle mass you have, the more susceptible you are to lactic acid and fatigue. Very rarely do we see muscle-bound guys who can really last in, let's say, the fight game. The gas tanks usually tend to be lower when you have that amount of muscle mass. So my prediction is I could see Levan smashing Michael the first round, just committing to the hit, staying high, and pinning him off the go. I think Michael could potentially adjust right there and get a stop. I also see the potential for, especially if it's PAL, Michael fouling out a couple times. So I'm hoping for a 4-2 where Michael gets a stop and Levan can't, his wrist fatigues out, and it lasts for the duration of the match and changes the entire playing field. just because of fatigue and lactic acid. In reality, I see something more like a 3-3. And that it would take Michael that long to get that stop or to figure something out. And looking at the difference between like the PAL setup and the WAL setup, it's ironic. I mean, you have a little bit more pad, which adds another variable for Michael. But I think that the WAL setup allows for a little bit more gaining in the setup, which could in fact favor Levan if he was able to take advantage of it. Guys like Devin have gotten so good at the setup in WAL, and I just don't know if PAL, it's going to be so much more neutral. And I think almost in a way, other than elbow fouls, I think that almost favors Michael. But once again, this is wishful thinking. I think we all can agree that Levan's the heavy favorite. But like I said, Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, every once in a while, I pick that underdog that I identify enough variables and I'm willing to put a little money on. And that was the case this weekend. So I'm going with that same concept.
It's interesting. One of the points you make there is one of the ones that's consistent with what I said to Devin, and it's very much in the back of my mind, is that Conor McGregor, in my opinion, in the Dustin Poirier match, one of the biggest issues that he had there was inactivity. Not being in with the absolute cream of the crop for a long period of time. And you can say, he didn't fight for a year. Then he fought against in my opinion, slightly past his best, whilst very game, version of Donald Cerrone.
Right.
But he hadn't been fighting at that top level, not since he fought Khabib. So I see a little bit of that risk for Mike, in that Mike being over with Larry, focusing on his YouTube channel and that endeavour, has taken him away from something which I think was putting an enormous amount of layers into Michael's game, which was training with a very big, powerful man in Corey West. Right. And it was just the table time, the frequency that the man was on the table, the regularity that he was on the table with a very solid puller. He was getting a degree of supplementary weight training as well within that, but it was much more focused around him, around the progression of Michael Todd. Personally, for Michael to have a better chance in the match, I like if the match happens, if I'm Mike's manager, okay, I prefer that match to happen in something like November, December, when Mike's been back in after sort of 3 months, 4 months working his game, focusing on him exclusively and sharpening everything up. Yeah. I see things slightly different to Ray. Whilst I agree with everything Ray said in terms of that it makes sense, the only thing that I would say from Mike's perspective is, and again, greatest of respect to Mike, he's my friend, but what I do think is that Michael isn't going to close a strength gap on Levan. Personally. I don't think he is
less squats and more wrist curls.
More of that, yeah. I don't think that Mike super yoking does him a great deal of help outside of the YouTube endeavour. And I think that even if he was to do wrist curls from now till then non-stop, I'm not actually sure Michael can close that gap on Levan. I think Levan is a freakishly strong individual anyway, and he's a bigger, much more naturally, genetically gifted, structurally gifted individual than Michael is. I think Michael's only shot in this thing is the freak factor, is the King's move, and the lack of experience that Levan may or may not have had in pulling somebody who can do that as well. The other thing that I really think is very important here is that if you look at Mike's track record, love him or hate him, he has never been run through.
Right.
Never gets run through. Okay? He has pulled Denis Siplenkov, who was a powerhouse. He's pulled a more technical, very strong guy in Devon Larratt, and a myriad of arm wrestlers in between that, in varying styles. The one chink in the armour, possibly, and it is only a possibly, of Levan, could be that he is not versed in pulling a King's mover, and because he's so much stronger than Mike, he almost takes for granted some areas of the table. And it's not the areas that you mentioned earlier, Ryan, with that centre. And I think you were saying Devon had done something. I haven't seen it, but you were saying Devon's done something on that where the centre is won by Levan. And to me, that is a little bit of a red herring because I don't see Michael's opportunity being there. I see Michael's opportunity in the centre being nothing more than, can I break out of the match and get a strap or not? Okay. And then that's why I see the organisation that they pull under as being of critical importance. Because if Michael's given fouls for holding this centre position in a King's, losing his hand and wrist, boom, and we get a slip and we go to a strap. For the viewing public, that's a much better scenario than if it's in the PAL and it's kind of like a no attempt to grip, foul, no attempt to grip, foul, no attempt to grip, foul. I think if we're going to, you got to pin an arm to win an arm. That's what I'd like to see, just because I like seeing arm wrestling matches, because I enjoy seeing arm wrestling matches, not fouls. If I want to go and see somebody call a foul in a stripy shirt, I can do that in any sport, and I'm an arm wrestling fan. So I want to see an arm wrestling match. I don't want to see Wild West where there's no rules, but I do want to see an arm wrestling match. So if you've got a situation where the arm remains in the centre of the table, compromised hand and wrist, to me that just says, okay, that's something I already knew. Levan's got a far superior hand and wrist, but he couldn't take the arm to the pad. Tie them together, and let's see there whether that gives Levan the opportunity to power straight through Mike. And I think it very well could. He may just be that strong. And is he fast enough? Has he got that explosivity? Maybe he does. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't think anybody's really seen Levan's range yet. I think Levan, the most we've seen of Levan, really, the current version of him, was when he was pulling with Tyler the Latin. I think that Levan is extremely focused on just that. I don't think he's focused on doing a YouTube channel. I don't think he's focused on anything like that, really. I think he's focused on cementing the fact that he is recognised as the best in the world. I think he's training with the best training partner in the world in Gennady Quickvinia. And I think that's, going back to what I said about Michael, it's sort of the absolute opposite of Michael. I think it's massively important. Gennady Quickvinia, you couldn't pick a better guy to train with. Super explosive, super well-rounded. Not to mention he's got a stable of other friggin' monsters over there to train with that are going to hit him in different areas and hit him in different directions, and it's all beneficial. So I think that Levan probably comes into the match, if it happens when they were talking about April or something. I think Devon said they talked about April. Well, if the match is going to happen in April, I do worry for Michael. Mm-hmm. I think Levan will come into that far better prepared. The only shot he's got, for me, is the freak factor. The shot that he's got is, can he, in the bottom third of that arm wrestling match, can he do what he's done to so many people, so many times, put the brakes on? And you know what I also see as being really important here? Really, really important, knowing Michael as I do, is how Michael feels about it. Mm-hmm. Has the experience and I can't wait to talk to Mike, either on the show or just privately, try and gauge his own opinion, because Michael, when he's emotionally charged and believes in himself, he can do things that he has no right to do. Yeah. You look back and you think, how the hell did you how did you do that? And it's a bit like Rocky. He will do it on pure heart. He'll do it on pure, I will not quit. I will break something. Now, there's a lot of people that'll say, I'll break something to win. That motherfucker will actually break something to win. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, you're going to have to break my arm to beat me, and then 2 minutes later I see him make a sensible decision and lie down. Michael is not that good. That's not Michael. Michael's a bit nuts. You know,
Neil, I spoke to Michael 12 hours ago, and I'm not going to say what Michael said publicly because he told me a lot of his insights and tactics into the match. But the one thing he did say was, trust me, the wrist will go. The wrist will go. So he believes. He believes.
Well, if he believes, it's a better opportunity. Personally, as I say, I would like to see I would like to see Michael have more time to prep for it. I'd like him to get back to America and Corey West be healed up enough to jump all over him for 3 months. And I think if that happens, I think Corey's a big weapon for Michael. I think Corey West and Michael, it helps him a great deal. More than most people probably realise, maybe more than they realise, but I think it's a really good thing. And I think that would, going back to what Ray said, table. You want to be a good arm wrestler, arm wrestle. And it's that joining of those parameters, you know. So in terms of bias, would I like to see Michael Todd win the match? Yeah, of course. He's my friend. I'd love to see Michael win the match. If I see him winning the match, how would it happen? As soon as it stops, Michael does well from there on. You know, it's around fatigue levels that go into to Levan. I struggle to see Michael clean sweeping him. I can't necessarily see that. I think there's some adjustments there with a guy this strong. Maybe it's a 4-2. 4-2 would be great, wouldn't it? 4-2 would be good for the fans. I'd love to see a 4-2 match. I'd actually, you know what? I'd love to see it in Arm Wars. I'd love it a 3-3. And then they could pull, as I said on the show with Devon, they could pull once in the PAL and they could pull once in the WAL and see how it went under the different rules and see what difference that makes. I think for the viewing public and for the arm wrestling fraternity generally, that'd be interesting.
That would be awesome.
To see when they pull on this spec of table, it'd take away a number of things. You'd start to see, okay, one-on-one, these two guys with adjustments, how much benefit does a King's Mover have on the WAL 9-inch pad? There's bound to be some.
Be good.
You know,
that would be outstanding.
Rules, how much difference? You know, and everybody wins because once these guys pull once, the worst thing that can happen for me is kind of it be a boring encounter because it's one of those great matches over there, isn't it? You know. It's the match you want to see.
It's a match. It's a match that can propel the sport into more fan base. If it is a war, there's more questions. Like I said, and especially if it's a close battle and it could have gone either way. Then we want to see it again, and the conversation keeps flowing. If it is, as you say, dominant. Then the conversation kind of stops and we start talking about who's number 2 and 3, and it's not as interesting as who's the champ.
And two guys that never really get talked about that I still think are right there in the conversation. I still think Latin ain't done.
No. Oh no way.
Latin ain't done. But Sally's still a danger.
Same as we've got to say Dave Chafee too. I kind of feel for Dave Chafee. He had this match. He was prepared for this match, and COVID killed it. And now Michael's kind of taken the spotlight. So I feel for Dave too. I don't by any stretch of the means count Dave out in this conversation either.
How do you see that comparison then, guys? Let's just dwell on that for a minute, because you've got Dave Chafee. Now, interestingly, I had Krasimir Kostadinov on the show the other day. God, I love that dude. How cool is Krasimir Kostadinov? What a top shagger that man is. I love him. He's ace. So Krasimir's on there, and we were speaking for as long offline as we were online, to be honest. But Krasi was like absolutely adamant that even now he believes that Dave Chafee is the strongest arm that he has ever arm wrestled. And he's had pretty recent, he said, experience with Levan as well. And he still thinks that Chafee is stronger. Now that blows your mind, doesn't it? If that's true, that's like, what the... because Levan is clearly biblically strong. So, knowing that, Michael managed to dominate Dave Chafee. Does that change anybody's opinion, or was that a mental thing? How does everybody see that?
King's Move versus Dave Style.
Yeah. It was the very first round with Mike and Dave. Dave won center easily. He drove for the pin, and because of the King's Move just got to stop, and then Dave was fish out of water with adjustments from there. So, I think the low pin pads of the WAL and the long pad helped Michael to do what he did in that match, and the cards fell away pretty quickly. But for me, Dave
he didn't really open, did he? He didn't even really go that open.
Round one, he did. Round one, he genuinely stopped with a low King's Move. But then from then on, he was in control.
Yeah, I analysed that the other day again. I still don't think it was one. I've seen Michael when he's gone scratchy. Like with Andrei Pushka, I think he was far more scratching than he ever was against Dave. You know, I think, and with Jerry Caderet, far more position. And I'm not talking about in the WL. I'm talking about in UAL. Sometimes he's been scratching more with certain individuals than he was with Dave at any time. He always seemed to me like with Dave, he had plenty in the tank, you know.
Honestly, for me, regardless of who wins between Levan and Michael, I would like to see Dave and Levan happen, no matter what.
It's going to happen, innit? That's done. Yeah. That match, I actually think that match is a hell of a lot more certain to take place than Michael Levan, personally. You know, because the next match that is going to come in the top 8 is going to be that one. You know. Now here's one that I can't walk by. And we've got a couple of questions we're going to get to in a minute in this weekend special, guys. But I cannot ignore the fact that Levan Saganashvili, as far as I know, his left arm is probably better than his right.
Oh.
Travis Bajan, somebody let that mother get out of the box.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, I can watch Travis stand still and talk and be entertained.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm still a believer, right? They're not particularly on the left arm. Say what you want about the right arm, but still on the left arm. Whether you're a Travis fan, whether you're not a Travis fan, Travis Bajan shows up and there's money on the line. Yeah. And he's motivated and he comes in ready on that left arm. He takes some beating.
Yeah. I've always said it. If we're talking left arm tournaments, and I had to pick a representative to win, and it was my life was on the line, I'd pick Travis. I think that what he brings to a match that no one else does is the ability to manipulate and control not just the arm wrestle, but the whole room. The energy of the ref, the energy of the opponent, the energy of the fans. He somehow has an ability to get under the feathers and ruffle his opponent just enough that he can put that silver bullet and get the hit. Very intelligent arm wrestler. No, I don't think there's anyone who executes better than Travis on the big stage. And so, I could never rule out Travis as a possible.
Travis's timing is excellent. His timing's excellent, and his ability to utilize every ounce, you know. And I'm going to throw it out there right now. I would love to make that match happen at the Arnold Classic UK in October this year. In front of the Giants Live Arena crowd, maybe. And I'll tell you what, would rip the roof off them motherfucker.
Yep.
Would that ever?
I think Travis thought it was a while back, but when Dennis and Devin had their match, Travis talked about how much money it would require for him to be game for a match with Dennis. I think that his conversation, if you guys remember that interview, that conversation, I believe that was in Scottsdale when you guys were all there, but I believe that conversation with Travis probably stands true right now. I'll be seeing Travis on Saturday, so maybe I'll get him in front of a camera and talk to him about it.
Yeah.
But I think that conversation stands just about the same. Like you talk about, like, who would you bet your life on if you had to? I think I would bet my life on Travis as long as the purse was big enough. So, I don't know if we said, hey, guess what, Travis, we want $10,000 to the winner. I don't know if you would see the most game version of him now if it was like 30,000 or 50,000, or if we're talking like real numbers, because I know he cited $100,000 for the Saplenko thing.
What I'm saying is this: there's more than one way to skin a cat, and more than one way to skin a cat, and more than one way to look at things. And Travis Bajan,
Yeah, but I do think that those things you talked about, Ryan, I think are what really separates him from most of the guys. Is his ability to distract, control, annoy, manipulate, and project confidence beyond his own actual confidence to the point where his opponent is totally derailed. So I think those head games, I think are things that I don't know how much Levan has dealt with. I think that's something we have a little bit more going on over here in the WAL arena than they do over there.
How could Travis wind it up and try and annoy Levan Saganashvili that much? Because I don't care who you are. If you're not a Saganashvili fan, there's something wrong with you. How lovely is that dude?
Right.
He's a great bloke, isn't he? He's ace. He may be like an early version, like a Neanderthal version of you, Paul, because he's like all the throwback. He's like you before you evolved into this guy.
That's possible.
My God, I think he's great.
He is.
I think he's an absolutely lovely bloke, and he's definitely a unique entity in the sport now, you know. And I'm interested to see how far he can go because he's still warming up. He's still progressing, isn't he? He's getting better.
Oh.
Who's the next? Before we get into the questions, who's the next guy that can challenge him? Who's the guy that? Let's say he runs through Mike. Yeah. Let's say he beats Michael in any way. We know that he's going to face Chafee. If he beats Michael and he beats Dave Chafee, who do you want to see him against next? Because
Jerry.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yep.
Jerry, as we've all said it, probably one of the most underrated super heavies on the elite scene. He has, just like Michael, he has a obscure game that people, if you're not used to it, it could be challenging. And Jerry's someone that might just fit perfectly into the sweet zone of being able to just get underneath Levan's hand just perfectly and get onto the bicep. And you just never know. Jerry might.
For any new guys that to the sport of arm wrestling that haven't been over to the Voice of Arm Wrestling channel right now and don't know anything about what we're talking about with the Jerry Carteret thing and the dead wrist press. The dead wrist press is quite a unique thing. Try and think of it like this. It's kind of like it's a bit like the top roll, but for really strong people.
Oh my goodness!
It about his hand, not interested. In so many areas, arm wrestling revolves around who's controlling this, who's controlling that wrist and hand. Why the guys are saying that Jerry represents the danger is a little bit like the King's move. It's the weirdo factor. How many guys can do that well and attack from that position? And that's what gives it that X factor interesting thing, isn't it? You know.
Right. I mean, I think like Travis we talked about like, you know, the weight classes and where North America is relevant. And he's always said that, you know, the super heavies is the place where we are most relevant. We're not in the middles. We're not in the lights. But when it comes to the super heavyweights, we've got guys that have been tried and true overseas. And Dave Chafee and himself is who he's predominantly referring to. And because I don't think Jerry travels quite as much and hasn't, you know, he's done some things on a world level, I believe, but he's such an unknown, you know, that I almost like if Levan is trying to put feathers in his hat, if he beats Michael, he beats Chafee, he kind of needs that stylistic feather in his hat to say like, I have beaten every move. Because you're seeing less of the flop wrist, the committed dead wrist press, over there. You know, how much experience does he have with it? And do I think he can beat it? I think he can. He has the capability. But when we talk about that eccentric handle, that hand strength, like you said, Neil, he doesn't care. That strength factor is totally negated in that match. So then it just comes down to like, can he get on the bicep? Can the bicep hold up? You know, all those, but it cuts down a bunch of the variables that we're discussing with the Michael match, which is why I want to see it, because it's like, I feel like he has to beat both of them, to be considered the best currently.
Yeah. Very interesting point you make there, mate, as well, is that, and I have a bit of myself and Krasimir have this running joke about him being too small. I know that somewhere out there, Krasi, if he's watching this, he's going to be like, yeah. But, joking aside, we've got this running joke that we've been on for years where he tells me he can be the world number one and I tell him to stop sniffing glue. Now, he said to me, he's like, look, Fatty, because he knows me. if I can stop Levan and I can keep my wrist flat, I know that I have got enough arm strength in me, in my best version, to pin him and to pull through him, because my arm's so short it keeps him out of shape. For me to have that flat position and to still be on the pad, it keeps him extended so he can't move to the side. Now, I didn't really comment positively or negatively on that, but he was so absolutely adamant that that's the case. He's convinced of it. He said, the only thing is that I've not managed to keep that control. I need to get stronger. I need to be able to do that. If I can stop him and keep my wrist flat, then I could do it. And that's very, very interesting, because Jerry hasn't got a particularly long forearm either. So if Jerry was able to get a side, is that a problem for Levan? I don't know. Because it's a very awkward position he gets into, isn't it? Really, really awkward. You know, Travis has spoken about that many times, that Jerry's just a horrible person to arm wrestle. And there's only really one way through him. From the sort of freak factor perspective, and I'm going to throw this straight to the technical director, do you think that, based on what Crass is saying there, and based on what we know about Jerry, do you think stylistically, Jerry may be a little harder than Michael could be then? Potentially?
We know he has a hook, you know. We know he has a hook. So I believe, I still believe Levan is too strong for him. Mm-hmm. I believe, even though you can do this, you know, how low can you go? If he keeps you pretty high and he has good back pressure, like, that's a problem. That's what Devon did with Jerry. If he goes in a hook aggressively together with him and doesn't catch him in the center, maybe just a little bit over, again, that's not good for Jerry. So how good Jerry is and how low can he get, you know, on his hand, because that's a big hand. That's a different kind of hand, and I will favor Levan. I believe Jerry's awkward style is very hard for everyone, you know, when you're not used to something, but you need a lot of strength, you know, and we know Levan, like, he went from having a great hook, like most heavyweights, having a great top roll. Like, not that many heavyweights, you know. He top rolled one of the best top rollers that we.
Oh, that's so impressive, wasn't it?
You know, so I believe he has too many weapons, and I believe there's still, like, there's a lot of guys in the conversation, and like, we talk about Dave Chaffee.
Yeah.
Like, my personal opinion is, I haven't seen the Chaffee that was facing Tsiplenko in 2013-14 since then. So to say that he is still a threat is a very long reach for me, because he, even though he was looking very good versus Rimkus still was doing things to him. So I'm like, okay, so there's thing. Then he lost to Devon. Then he lost to Michael. Different rules, but still, you know. So that was the guy that was so imposing. That was the only guy who was stopping Tsiplenko, maybe in Tsiplenko's prime. But then it was like a big nothing in between. And then there were some showings in 2017, you know, where he lost to Travis. Am I correct? Or
2015. Travis.
2015. Okay, so
I had it 16. I thought it was 16, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, but there was still in that way. So when someone says to me, like, yeah, like, we're looking at very ancient history in arm wrestling when everything goes that fast. It's 6 years ago, 7 years ago, versus one opponent. And to say, like, this guy is still there, I want to see him be there. I want to see, I believe Vitaly is improving because he's very young.
Yeah.
And guys over 40, they're not getting younger. They can improve on different things. But keeps, like, everyone will always say, like the argument is always, yeah, but Devon beat John, you know? Yeah, 40 years old John, you know, one time. And then he went through, or Tsiplenko beat him. Yeah, like 3 years older John. That's no one's, when the age age doesn't help. You know, when young lions are coming up.
Yeah.
Young lions is, in my opinion, Vitaly. I believe he's better, and he will be much bigger threat in fundamental aspects of arm wrestling, like classical arm wrestling, than anyone else. Then there's Trubin. That's always a problem if he can get his shit together. You know, when he focuses, like he focused on Andrei, and again, but Andrei had that one weakness, and he exposed that weakness. You know, so it's always that there are a lot of young guys and still guys from North America that are coming in, but I haven't seen the best showing. It's like talking about that one match that we had 7 years ago and applying it to this day when all this has happened in between. You know what I'm saying? I'm so tired of this speculation. I just want to see arm wrestling. I'm like, this guy or that guy, don't care, doesn't matter. Let's get on table and start arm wrestling.
Yeah.
However,
there's so many unknowns, isn't there, across that pitching gap?
Like, okay, Michael, when he went to KL, he lost every super match in past years. He won there. Let's put them together and find out. Let's not making this political, not trying to milk most money out. Give arm wrestling community what they want. Make a low, like, I will pay $10, €10, doesn't matter to see that match. Make it something like that. Everyone gets paid if they wanted to. Let's have that match. Let's stop talking about it. Because
you know what, mate? I actually think, and I hope that the PAL are listening, and the WL I'm sure are listening. I'm absolutely sure of it. I think you can't overlook the benefits of the timing of this, the captive audience you've got now, and the fact that arm wrestling is so in the public eye. Probably more so than it's ever been. I talk a lot about the rising tide raising all ships, and I genuinely believe that if the match was to happen now, for everyone, for the Professional Arm Wrestling League who've got interest in arm wrestling equipment, arm wrestling generally, and aren't going anywhere. They're going to be doing that. They're going to be churning it out at the highest level of quality, as are the World Arm Wrestling League. Both organisations will benefit from this, and I'm sure that the World Arm Wrestling League are very aware of that. But if the match does go ahead, I think the whole sport takes that level up in terms of awareness. And I think
stop teasing us. Stop teasing us. Stop doing this. It's not good. I know everyone wants to, you know, when these promotions wants to make money because they invested in these athletes. I get it. But I believe if they would just set it in a room, like let's do one PL, one WL, it doesn't matter, but in a room with referee, 2 guys, and that's it, and camera, and good internet connection, and just say, like, pay, then, like, they would make thousands of dollars. Everyone would make money, everyone would be happy, we would be happy, we would have something to talk about. Right now it's one speculation after another, after another. So, I'm like, is Lachlan elite? I don't know. I hope so, but we cannot find out. I need to find out. So I'm really, to be honest, I'm tired of these conversations, guys. I'm really. we just
I can
keep,
answer the one question there, Lachlan. He is elite, and 60 meters, probably sub 8 seconds. Yeah. Also, maybe we talk about world records occasionally on this show, and I actually think that seriously in the uphill or steady incline egg and spoon race, I don't think anybody can beat Lachlan.
Yep.
I think we might have done, guys. We're about an hour and 4 minutes into this. What do you think? Weekend special, episode 49 of The Fix. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, I'm just for those people out there, when we come back on episode 50, Arm Wrestling Noobs had a question. We've got it. We've logged it. We will be answering that. We've got a couple of questions which we will answer on episode 50. We'll get into those. This was really specifically going to be focusing always around the sort of developments out in Dubai. I want to thank my co-hosts on the show, first of all. ROLLIE Rice, Voice of Arm Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it on the sign. From the Liepins in the motherfluffing house. Get over to Voice of Arm Wrestling.
Guys, stop teasing me. Start arm wrestling. I'm so tired.
He's off.
He's off. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to also thank my other co-hosts on here. First of all, Lethal Arms Apparel's very own. Hey, and if you need your Lethal Arms shirt, just go onto Ron Bath's social media and check out how that guy looks in a Lethal Arm Assassin shirt. How good did he look in that, son?
Oh, he looks awesome, man. Man, this guy's aging backwards.
Jesus. I think the cut of the shirt just enhanced him there. If you want one of those shirts, get yourself over to Lethal Arm. Where can they go, mate? Tell them about that.
www.shoplethalarms.com. We also have inventory. If you want to PM me, I can probably get some mailed to you for potentially cheaper. But
last but by no means least, Ryan Blue Bowen. Mother Fluffing House. Pound for pound apparel, launching all kinds of stuff. Tell them where they can go.
Yeah, you know what? Poundforpoundarmwrestling.com. Yeah, loving it. It's all coming together nicely. Happy to take on the haters too. You guys can buy shirts.
Now then, just before I sign off, formally, ladies and gentlemen, just want to remind you of one thing. This show was brought to you by the world's greatest beef jerky, Western Survivor. And let me tell you now, new line just come out from Western Survivor, the Biltong. Only one of us.
I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried it yet. I'm trying not to run through it. I've been showing the same bag forever because I ate all the other stuff. So I got a little surplus now. I'm taking my time. I have not tried it yet.
Every day I'm looking at mail. I'm like, please be that day.
Because
the biltong is supposed to be like something really serious. You're either going to love it or hate it, apparently.
We got sent over the biggest box of beef jerky you've ever seen in your life. We're talking, literally, there had to be like 40 packs of beef jerky, and there was tons of it. I thought, oh, that'll last us ages. And within about 2 weeks, I completely smashed the end.
Yeah.
It is really good gear, ladies and gents. Get over there. www.westernsurvivor.ca. And I'll tell you what, you will not be disappointed. The best beef jerky in the world. Yep. Ladies and gents, this has been The Fix. Show number 49. If this is your first time on Supernatural Strength, thanks for checking us out, guys. Like, share, subscribe, and until we see you next time, take it easy, peeps.
What grabs your eyes on that, if anything?